welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Awesome. All right, cool. So, what I want to find out, what are some of the things that you want to get out of today? What are some of the things? Let's put that into the chat. I'd love to find out what are some of the things that you would like to get away from today, walk away with from today. Let's light up the chat so we can find out. Let's rock and roll. What do we got? What do we got? Let's put that into the chat. Clear mindset. Fantastic. Yes, Casey. Love it. What else? Knowledge, motivation, inspiration, action plan. Sandy. Yep. So good. Ideas, Rosie. Yeah. Fantastic. What else? What else we got? What some of the things that you'd like to walk away with from today? Let's put that into the chat. Strategies. Love it, Rob. Good. Strategy for beginners. Harsh. Totally, dude. Love it. Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. Good. All right. So for this next session, positive thinking. Yes. Getting an accountability that keeps me real. Angelo. So true. Planning. Yes. Yasmin. All right. So I see, now I'm going to call it. I see a lot of videos that aren't on. For this next session, you need to turn your video on, right? You need to turn your video on. All right. So if you haven't, turn it on now, make it happen, because for you to really get the maximum out of this session, we need to turn it on, because this session, this is going to blow your mind. Good friend of mine. I'm so honored and privileged to have him today online to share with us so much information. This gentleman has been doing this for a number of years, and he is a combination of Dr. Phil and The Mentalist. The amount of opportunities that he's helped his clients through of putting deals together, securing deals that when they're completely off the table has been phenomenal. This gentleman is a personal friend of mine. He's helped me personally with my kids. He's helped me personally with the business. And it's such an honor and a privilege to have this gentleman, Alan Stevens, with us today as our first guest. Mate, Alan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's great to be here again. We seem to be doing this a bit lately.
Mate, you've got the perfect audience in relations to a captive audience, and everyone's on video. So I know, and what I love is seeing your face already going through everyone's video. So once again, if you have your video off, turn it on now. Turn it on now. This is a session that you do not want to miss. Make sure you got pants on. Make sure you are fully clothed, but turn your videos on now. So Alan, if you want to give us a little bit of a context and background about yourself before we get into some fun, away you go.
Rightio. Well, as James has said, Alan Stevens. I'm known as an international profiling and communication specialist. And what that means is that I read people. And my whole process is in helping you to be able to look at somebody else and know their personality the moment you see their face. That's why James has been asking for you to put your videos on. So please, everyone who's got their videos off, please put them on, because what I'm going to be doing is giving you a bit of a demonstration of how this works. And you're my guinea pigs, so to speak, because what I'm going to be doing is telling you what I'm seeing. Great to see Robert Turley here again, because Robert was one of my guinea pigs the other day. And very quickly, Robert, did you enjoy the session? You're muted there, mate.
Yes, I did. I must admit that I got a lot out of it and got to know myself, things I didn't even realize.
Thank you. And that's why we're asking everyone to put your videos on, so that when I go through this, you'll actually know a bit more about yourself, how other people see you, and how to use that to your advantage. But a little bit about my background. I've always been thrown into the deep end. When I was 23 years old, I was put in charge of a group of men who were all older than me. My second in charge was 38, and I had to get them on side. In my mid-30s, I joined the surf club and did my bronze medallion, and then very quickly became a patrol captain, in which they gave me everybody that nobody else wanted. And then from there, I became the club captain and zone supervisor of 3 beaches. And in my mid or late 30s, my first wife left and I had 3 boys to raise. So one of the things that's always been a challenge in my life has been able to understand people, what makes them tick. And so I set out on a bit of a journey through those years and started trying to find out more about people. In about about 1988, I first got introduced to mobile, MBTI, and also DISC profiling. So psychometric profiling, where you ask people questions, and then from there you try and work out their personality. Well, I then found that in about 2005, I had a bit of a problem with the Myers-Briggs system. I was working with a company that taught currency trading. And when we started training the students, a lot of them were losing money, so they got me to come in. We profiled everybody with DISC and Myers-Briggs, started training them, and then when they put money on the table after they'd done their training, they were losing money and they weren't performing in their particular format, in the way their personality told us that they should be performing. So I needed a better system, and I just went off on a search to find out new ways of reading people. I've been working with NLP since the mid-90s, and I've been working with body language for over all those years, from the 1975 when I was put in charge of those men. But I needed a better system. In about 2008, I was helping a friend with a spiritual retreat. He'd asked me to do a workshop using Myers-Briggs, and we put people through all the dichotomies. And when we put them through that, we found that I walked away from there. A gentleman walked up to me and said, "Have you ever looked at reading faces?" And for me, that was the start of it. I'm this person who believes the most important thing I'll ever learn is the next thing I learn after I think I know everything. So off I went and I did some research, and I found Paul Ekman, who is the gentleman who did all the research behind the micro expressions. Those little twitches that happen on your face the moment something happens around you or somebody says something, your face will give a twitch. There'll be an expression of one form or another. And there's about 7 expressions which are universal. It doesn't matter if you've been blind from birth, whether you live in a capital city or whether you live in a tribal village. If you feel anger, you're going to express anger on your face. The same with contempt, disgust, happiness, sadness, fear, and surprise. Those 7 traits are universal. So if you see a little twitch on someone's face, in that moment you've said something or something has happened near them, that will be telling you their true emotion. So that was the first area that I looked at. But I thought, right, that tells me after the fact, but I needed to know people before the fact. How could I profile them? How could I know how to present to them before I even went and met them? And at that workshop, gentleman just said to me, well, as I said, you ever looked at reading faces? So I searched, and I also found a lady by the name of Naomi Tickle. There's an English lady living in California, and I trained with her. And it was on the facial features. Now, probably a few at this point are going, facial features, this is a little bit woo-woo. What's James got us into? Well, if you think about it, if you lift weights, you're going to build your muscles up. At the same time, everything, as we said, everything you feel on the inside, you're going to display on the outside. That's why the micro expressions work. That's why the body language works. So if you think in a certain way over and over again, you're going to create ridges and crevices on your face. You're going to change the structure of your face. Wide set eyes, for instance, if you concentrate really deeply and keep looking ahead, focusing down on things, your eyes, the muscles around your eyes, they'll start to come closer together. So your facial features don't change overnight. So therefore, the little changes that do appear over time are a giveaway of your personality. Your face is a history of how you like to think and process. And the moment I see somebody's face, now that could be on their websites, LinkedIn profiles, their on their Facebook pages, websites, you've got their personality straight away. You know how they like to take information, and you know how they like to be treated. And from there, you know straight away how to present to them in the first place. There was a saying that you treat people the way that you would have them treat you. Well, that's better than the way most people were treating people, but the real way to treat people is treat them as they would have you treat them. So the more that you can connect with somebody on their level, the better response you're going to have. Just put your hands up if you've had the situation where you've put a proposal together, you've done all your work on it, and sometimes you go out and you hit it on the mark straight away. And on other times, you just miss it altogether, even though you put a lot of work into that presentation and it's worked really well. Has anybody had that situation before? Just put your hands up. Excellent. And that will be because when we put a proposal together, we think about it and make sure it fits our needs. It sounds right to us. It's got the right information. And then we go and talk to somebody else. And if we get it on the mark, they're probably very similar to us in a lot of ways. But the situation will be that when we don't hit the mark, that person will have a very different personality to us, whether we've given them enough information or we've given them too much information. Now, what I'm going to do is just not talk about the history of them, but get into a few of the traits, because at the end of the day, you'll want to walk away with a few ideas and things you can apply straight away. Would that be correct? Okay. So what I'm going to do is go through a few of the traits. And this is where, as James had said, I would like to have your cameras on. So those who are still listening in the background who have got their cameras off, please put them on so I can see you, because you will miss out on a few things here if you don't. Okay. Well, Craig's into it straight away. Thanks, mate, for taking the glasses off. But one of the things I can see with Craig very quickly is that very affable, happy to, when he meets people for the first time, we'll go up to them and we meet them fairly closely, stand close to them. I know that you analyse things before you make a decision. And once you've analysed it, it's then just give me the best way to do it and get out of the way and let me get it done. You've got a dry sense of humour. You're on your adventurous side. When you speak, you don't waffle on. It's pretty much straight to the point. You give the details, but you don't give a long, overdrawn talk about it. And you do find the errors in documents and things like that very quickly when you're looking at those. Would that be correct? And by the way, while I'm doing this with anybody, would you please, if you want to respond, turn your microphone on and let's hear your responses, because that'll give everybody else a bit of an understanding as well. Okay, so how was that, Craig?
Yep, pretty spot on, I reckon.
Yeah, so if I came in and I started talking to you and I just gave you a rough overview on something, would there be enough information there, or would you be asking me questions?
No, I'd be asking you questions.
That's right. So I know that if I'm going to present to Craig, what I have to do is make sure I've got all the details in there. Now, if I was what I call a big picture person, who is somebody who just wants the overview, and somebody who just wants the overview is somebody who stands on a mountain peak and there's another mountain peak. How do I get across to the other mountain peak? Where's the bridge? What's the quickest way to get there? But in your case, you'll go down into the valley, check everything out, make your mind up as to whether it's worth going up to the other side or not. So you'll go through all that decision. So if I'm a big picture person, I'm talking to you, Craig, what I'm going to do is, and I want to make sure I don't miss anything, I would say, Craig, there's a lot of information in this, but so that I don't miss anything, what I'm going to do is give an overview first of all, and then you just ask all the questions that you want to ask, and we'll spend as much time as you want on that. We'll go back down each item as deep as you want to go. Would that be okay with you?
That'd be perfect.
Excellent.
Sold.
Sold. You got it.
Okay, so that's how that works. Now let's take it back to the view here. Let's see. Now on that, as far as the amount of details, this one I'll get everyone to have a look at themselves. Some of you are on your mobile phones, which is probably going to be a little bit difficult for you. But if you're sitting in your car, which I noticed a couple of people were before, without running off the road, look in the rear vision mirror. The others who have got their phones sitting nearby, just turn it on to selfie mode where you've got the camera looking at you, and have a look at, with Craig, what I picked up as far as how much information he needed is in the exposure of the eyelids. You'll notice on Craig's, the eyelash goes up underneath the fold of skin. Just going to see who, let's see. As you can see, all the images on this are really small. Rosie, could you just come off the microphone and say something so I can see you in?
Hello.
Yeah, we'll just bring it up back to, yep. Okay, g'day. Okay, now, if everyone can see Rosie, Rosie's got a little line above her eyelash. Where it goes up, it doesn't quite go underneath. So Rosie's a little bit more towards the person who would just like the big picture, the least amount of information, just enough to make the decision. Would that be right, Rosie?
Yeah.
So if I came along, or if Craig came along to you and started doing a presentation with all the detail that he needs to make a decision. Beautiful.
Even better.
So, Rosie, would I be right that sometimes when Craig is talking to you, too much information?
Yeah.
So if he had came up to you and he's had a lot of information he had to tell you, if he said to you, Rosie, look, there's a lot of information in here, but what I'm going to do is I'll give you the big picture and let you ask the questions you want to ask. But if there's something in there that I think you need to know that you haven't asked, is it all right if I tell you that then?
Perfect.
And so then I would give you the big picture. If you then ask the questions you want, and it's that point, if there was something else, say I was a financial planner and there was some information you needed to know by law or whatever, I go, well, Rosie, remember when we mentioned earlier on, might be some stuff that you need to know. That boring stuff, we're there now. Is that okay? And you can see the expression straight away. Straight away, yes, that's fine. We make a little bit of light fun of it. See, in your case, yes, I give the big picture and let you know the questions there, but I know you're not going to ask a lot of questions. But if it was the other way around and you just gave the overview to Craig, then he's more likely to then be wanting to stop you and more information. As you try to give the big picture, he'll just keep going deep. But if you're given to him, as I've said before, then the end result is that you can say to him, look, you know, when you've said, I'll just give you the big picture, and you ask all the questions you like, and we'll spend as much time as you need, because that way you know that if he's asking questions, he's happy with the process, and you've got a better chance of getting a sale. To sell to you just on that one trait is going to be quicker, but to him, it's going to be longer. And so, but it's going to, whatever time it takes is the right time if you do it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
So with Craig, as he would try and drag you back, you've got a verbal contract with him. If you've set things up to start with and said to him, look, what I want you to do is, you know, I'll give you the overview, ask the questions at the end, and we'll go back and spend time on it. I want to make sure I don't miss anything. So I just want to do it this way, if that's okay. If he tries to interrupt, you can remind him, hey, as I said before, I want to make sure I don't miss anything. And that's important to me, that I give you everything. And it's got to be important to you, hasn't it?
Mm.
You've got to say yes to that. And so you've got the contract back again, and you can go back and you can control the way that meeting flows. Because if he kept on asking you questions while you're trying to give the overview, it throws you off mark and you can lose information. But again, I can see there's going to be some very interesting conversations with him as well, as far as both got a bit of a dry sense of humor as well. So there's a bit of banter and that can go on. But the next one, while I've still got Rosie here, as I said before, where Craig is quite affable and he's quite comfortable standing close to people when he meets them for the first time, would I be right in saying, Rosie, that when you meet people, you like to stand back, you're a little bit more discerning. You like to check out who's safe to be around before you go up and or let them come close to you. Would that be right?
Yeah, definitely.
I think we've got some nods from Craig too there.
Now, on this one, when you're looking at somebody and they're looking straight at you, imagine a vertical line straight through the pupils of the eye. And you're looking at the height of the iris, the colored section of the eye, and you're looking at the gap underneath, above the eyelash, but beneath the eyebrow. If that is a larger gap, and as you can see on Rosie, it's a little bit larger, the iris would actually go in and there'd be space. Whereas with Craig, it's closer to it. So Craig is more affable. And by the way, guys, every trait has an upside and every trait has a downside. The bigger the upside, the bigger the downside. So somebody who's extremely affable is friendly with everybody, including the wrong people, even the con artists. They can be easily conned. The more discerning person may appear to be less friendly, but they are standing back, as Rosie said, making sure that she's able to recognize who's safe and who's not safe to be around. The moment she's got that, then she knows that if Rosie's standing close to somebody, you'll know that she knows them quite well. So in Rosie's case, the downside is she may be seen to be less friendly, but the upside is she's less likely to get conned because she takes that time to work people out. So if you were presenting to Rosie and you went up and you went straight up to her and shook her hand or whatever, and you stepped into her personal space, she's going to step out. And if you're not thinking and you step into that space, again, would I be right in saying, Rosie, that you're not going to be listening to a thing the person says? You're more concerned about your space?
Yeah. Out of body, looking in.
Yep. So be very careful about this one. At the moment on Zoom, it's not an issue, but when we get back out into the real world again, back out into the streets, if you're meeting with somebody, this is the most important trait of all. You want to make sure that you don't invade their space. What I would do, Rosie, if you came up to me, I would stop just before you got to me. I would put my hand out to shake your hand, and I'd allow you to set up your space. And it's not a bad idea to do with everybody that you meet. They will set their space up, but you'll notice that Rosie will actually stand further back. As she does that, I will also know that I'm in rapport with her when she steps closer to me. And I know that if we're chatting, if it's a noisy environment and everything else, she will come closer to me. If she comes closer to me, it means that she's interested in what I'm talking about. And she trusts me. While she doesn't trust me, she will stay out. So there's an indication of how your conversation is going. If Rosie's always standing back from me, I know that there's something wrong. There's how she's seeing me, something I've done or whatever it might be. Or what I'm saying might be not matching. That's why I'll be looking at those expressions that I talked about before. Is that person, if there's a look of contempt or disgust, a little bit of sadness on your face, whatever it might be, that will give me an indication of what's going on. That's why I put all these processes together. Basically, as I said before, I've been working with the psychometric profiling, Myers-Briggs and things like that. I've been working with body language, with NLP. Once I started looking at looking at the faces, I then knew that I had something that really worked. I created rapid trait profiling, which now has I've been recognised by the Guardian as a leading authority on reading faces globally, and by the Herald I'm referred to as a mentalist meets Dr. Phil. So all of those skills have been learnt through this and applying it. So this is the fastest way to read people. With DISC and all the other systems, you've got to ask questions, or the extended DISC, when you observe people, it depends on your emotions on the day. So the more I can focus on you and not worry about my emotions, the easier it is for me to read you. So anybody who needs to build their confidence, I'll actually go into the confidence right now, I think. Have a quick look around again.
And Alan, can you also share the story around the client that you worked with in relations to going back and putting the deal together and getting a whole different outcome from the clients than they originally set out to achieve?
Yeah, I had a client not long ago. It's actually a gentleman. He is a builder, and on they put a quote together for a number of buildings. The first one was he put in a quote for $2 million. The customer came back and wouldn't go to 2 million. They'd only go to 1.6, and they were arguing the price. The deal was falling off the table. He got me to have a look at their faces. I told him the first gentleman he was talking to, he was talking to about the money. Stop talking money, start talking service. This guy's facial features showed me that it was about the service that he liked to receive, therefore he would like to give service. And with that, his business partner, though, was about the money, but he was also very much somebody who just wanted variety, didn't want to do the same thing over and over again, a little bit like Adam there. So it's getting into something and moving on very quickly. So by the time he'd finished talking to both of them, he added $150,000 to his deal and signed them off. Because for the first one, it was, hey, it's about the service. This is your first building. If it's not spot on, the end result is going to be you're not going to be able to get people into the other buildings. You'll not build your other outlets. To his partner, it was a case of, yes, he wanted variety, and yes, he wanted the money. So I said, right, talk to him about how you can get the first building built fast, get the clients in. That will then pay for the next building, and you'll be able to move on from there very quickly. And that way you'll get the whole projects finished, and then you'll be just making money from there. At the same time, this works in negotiations as well. I had another gentleman who had a contract that was a fixed price contract. He'd underquoted, or he believed he'd underquoted, but when I spoke to him, it was more that he'd actually over-delivered. I profiled his clients for him, got him to go back and have a chat with him. It was just before Christmas. There was $150,000 debt that he had to come up with, another $150,000. And it meant that he may have to sell his house, which was $400,000 worth of house, as a quick sale. He went back and spoke to him. When he came back, he told me that they'd come to the party with the extra money. And not only that, there was a proviso, and that was that he started another project the following that year, and also another 2 projects the following year after that. So he went from $150,000 debt to a multi-million-dollar project. So what it comes down to here is that when you meet somebody at their level, they will always respond. And that's the whole thing. James, I gave you the offer at the last talk we talked about, where the 7 secrets. And there's also
perfect. Do you want to quickly, just because I know we're just about to wrap up for our session here, do you want to share quickly your free online course that you've got? Because I think it's going to be beneficial for all the listeners today.
Excellent. Yeah, well, there's the 7 secrets. First of all, it's a download video pack, 6 emails with some of the traits that we're talking about today, and some others to learn how to read those. But I have an online course, which is the Truth Seeker. I mentioned the 7 expressions there before. This program shows you how to read the 7 traits, 7 expressions. You only have to put up with me, though, for 20 minutes with me pulling all sorts of faces. So I go through all of those expressions and show you how to read those. So you go away and practice those. Because the more that you can practice it and feel it in your face, you'll recognize it in other people really quickly. And so that's a gift that I've given to James to forward on to you as valued clients of his.
So if you want to just grab a copy of that, just type in Alan into the chat so I can get that through to you later on this afternoon. Just type in Alan into the chat and we'll get that through later on this afternoon.
Excellent.
All right, cool. Alan, really appreciate your time. And I mean, we could be talking, I mean, this is your field day, like going through everyone's videos and profiling. And I know that some of the events that we've been together where you do an introduction and then you say what you do and how you help people, everyone just immediately goes, oh, whoo, like this, and starts to walk away. I just really want to appreciate your time and your energy this afternoon, and also your expertise. Guys, check it out. His website's alanstevens.com.au. Heaps of information, so much information there. It can be hours and hours of stuff. Any final food for thought, Alan, on your end?
Well, if you do have staff and they've got to get their CPD points, there's also one of my other courses there, which is recognised now for real estate agents in New South Wales as a CPD program. But one of the things I always say to people, as I said before, the most important thing I'll ever learn is the next thing I learn after I think I know everything. The best way you can run your business, keep an open mind. The more you're able to understand these traits, not only talk to your clients, but also to your staff. The more you understand their personalities, the more you're able to put them in the roles where they're most effective. And you know how to structure your teams. The whole thing in business is about productivity. We knew coming into COVID, we had a lot of people that shut their doors and will never open them again because they weren't putting what I call the emotional intelligence into their business. It's the foundation of everything you do. It's like the footings underneath this concrete slab. If you don't build those relationships properly, you're not going to go anywhere. And forget about building business relationships. It's all a personal relationships. So think every deal that you do is a personal relationship, whether it be with your client, prospects, whether it be with your staff, whether it be your family, whether it be your kids. The skills you learned here, which we talked about today, you can use everywhere. Thanks, James.
Awesome. Thank you, Alan. Really appreciate it. Everyone, what I'd love for you to do is just give Alan a real virtual high five on your screen. Give them fantastic. Love it, love it, love it.